Calling August 5th, Plan Commission meeting to order. Everybody stand, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Andres. Roll call. Okay. You put it right in front of me. Doesn't mean I can read it. All right, let's do a roll call.
Anthony Bailina.
Here.
Robert Tantillo.
Here.
Richard Minshaw.
Here.
Diane Gormley-Barnes.
Here.
And Greg Skovich.
Here.
5-0. That's 5 people, so we have a quorum.
All right, thanks, Andres, for pushing out the May and June meeting minutes in advance of the meeting. I had time to review them today. I'm not sure if everybody else did, or if we need a minute to take a look. And once we think we're good, I'll entertain a motion to approve May and then a second motion to approve June, to the extent there's no comments.
I'll move to approve the May minutes.
I'll second.
Note Diane, motion to approve the May meeting minutes, seconded by Mr. Minshaw. All in favor of approving the May meeting minutes as distributed by Andres, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries for the approval of the May meeting minutes. For the record, note that Kat Plotke is present
At 7:03.
at 7:03. And now I'll entertain a motion for approval of the June meeting minutes after you've reviewed them. Motion by Mr. Commissioner Bailina,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Gormley-Barnes. All in favor of approving the June 2025 meeting minutes in the form as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. June 2025 meeting minutes as shared and prepared by Andres are approved. So Andres, we've got a full agenda tonight. We're going to start with the public hearing, and then we're going to dive into some new business and kicking off a discussion about fence regulations. And then we'll scratch on some old business, and you'll give us an update on Safe Built, and then anything else the planning commissioners have on their plate. And then we'll close with board report, building report, and to the extent necessary, and to the extent we haven't covered any public comments, we'll open it up for public. So, we have a public hearing. I need to entertain a motion. You want to do a staff presentation first, or do you want to open up for a public hearing?
We should do a motion and a second to start the discussion, then public hearing. Then we'll have to do a motion and a second to open the public hearing, which can be confirmed by just a voice vote, and then at the end, the same thing.
Excellent. I would like to entertain at this time a motion to open the public hearing on petition 2025-04, which is a variation to allow the conversion of enclosed garage space into a family room at property located at 147 Cascade Drive.
I motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellina.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Gormley Barnes. All in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. I think it'd make sense for staff to provide us with an overview of what we're hearing tonight, and then any applicants that are present, we'd look to swear you in for those who will be participating in any form of presentation or question and answer.
Okay, thank you very much. So the petition before you is, the applicants, the petitioners are George and Deborah Dominiak, located at 147 Cascade Drive. They are, through their legal counsel, Cindy O'Keefe, they provided an application for a request for a variation for reasonable accommodation as allowed under the Fair Housing Act to convert their existing enclosed garage into a family room to allow Mr. Dominiak to access the space in his home, which he needs to do due to his disability as provided. So a brief background on the location. 147 Cascade is located in the Acacia PUD. It is zoned R3. It is also one of the, I think it's like permit number 83 in the village, so it's one of the oldest permits in the village, so we do not have actual like plans for the building. That's just kind of a note. In the packet, you can see I've highlighted the area in there if you were unaware of where it's at. We also put a public sign in front of it as required. A bit of background on the history on this. On April 11th, the petitioners put in an application for a building permit to convert it. On an April 22nd, due to the failure to meet the zoning code, staff returned that as not approved. The reason it failed to meet the zoning code is because the zoning code requires off-street parking space for an enclosed off-street parking space for every single family residential unit in the village, whether attached or detached. After the conversion, looking at the plans that was provided, petitioner provided, after the conversion, the family room would be 4 feet, or the rest of the garage would be 4 feet 6 inches. Per the municipal code, all residential areas must have a minimum, the minimum space for it must be 9 feet in width and 20 feet in length, with a vertical clearance of 7 feet. As it would not meet the size requirements for off-street parking, then therefore it would not count for the one required enclosed space, and therefore it'd be in violation. After we informed the petitioners of that, they provided the variation application. We provided the variation application to them, and they returned it, noting that it was a reasonable accommodation request. As part of the municipal code 42143B, with a reasonable accommodation request, there are certain items that we can ask. The ones that are in the packet, numbers 5, 6, and 7, are those that are non-standard to variation requests. 1, 2, and 3 are like name, location, what you want to do. But 5, 6, and 7 are the impairment for which the accommodation is requested, the prognosis of the time frame which the accommodation would be required for. That means basically if you have an accommodation because you have a temporary disability or a temporary condition that could be cleared up in a year or two, then that would be that, and then the variation would be temporary, and then basically report or a clinical psychologist detailing that. The petitioner did provide us that information back. However, at the same time, they asked that the information be kept private, and that they requested that the petitioner will be present at the meeting to answer all the relevant questions for that. And I believe he is here. Well, actually, I don't believe he's here. He is here. As part of that, the municipal code, I outlined in that. In particular, the one thing that we are looking at, the uniqueness of this is not like a standard variation request where we ask the 13 findings of fact. Instead, we are looking at this as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. Now, in looking up guidance for this, basically we have to make this reasonable accommodation, has to go through the process through all of it. But it is determined on a case-by-case basis. The the Illinois, or excuse me, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division provided some guidance on this, and what they said is that they basically put a two-question test on there, which is first, does the request impose an undue burden or expense on the local government? And the second one was, does the proposed use create a fundamental alteration in the zoning scheme? The answer to either is yes, the request of accommodation is unreasonable. However, they also note that what might be reasonable in one circumstance might not be reasonable in another, and the scope and the magnitude of the modification requested and the features of the surrounding neighborhood are among the factors that will be taken into account when doing these types of things. So this is, so I wanted to point this out because it is a very particular, basically we are looking at what the request in modification is, what the requested variation is, and if it would cause, essentially with these two factors of it, is do those two, does the reasonable accommodation request, pertain to the impairment that we are looking at, it pertain to the impairment, so it's not something like, something completely unrelated. And the other thing is we're looking at is, would it cause an undue burden on the neighborhood or change the fundamental scheme on that? So to that, since it was requested to be private, staff didn't really have any additional analysis on this, and then nor did we have a recommendation. And so staff will say that, as a petitioner is here, that we should ask the pertinent questions to determine if the accommodation that is being requested is reasonable and does not cause that undue administrative burden or change the underlying scheme. If you have any other questions for me, I can try to answer them.
Thank you. Excellent summary of what we're hearing tonight. And to be clear, because over the last couple meetings, we've had some special land uses, we've had some variances. I want to understand, we are hearing a variance tonight, which runs with the property and is not a conditional approval like a special land use, which would run with the owner.
In this specific case, with the reasonable accommodation variation, it goes with the person who has the impairment. So in the previous one we did that was similar to this, we did it as a special use. And this is one of those things where technically a special use is a special use variation. We don't use the term special use variation because it would confuse people in the difference between a special use and basically what we consider a variation, where a special use is with the person, variation is with the property. In this specific case, the way it's written in our code, and so we're calling it a variation in this one.
So there's no subsequent preparation of an ordinance that we would have to then hear next month and approve.
No, we would still be required to have the ordinance written
So
together.
tonight, we're
Tonight,
giving you permission to advance
Correct.
drafting an ordinance.
Correct. Your options tonight are either to provide a negative recommendation and not direct staff to create an ordinance, to have a positive recommendation and have direct staff to provide an ordinance. There's a third option, which is also you might look to provide a reasonable accommodation than maybe the petitioner has requested. And the fourth option is to continue it. To continue the hearing if you need further information, if there needs to be further deliberation on the issue. So those are the four options we have tonight. But if you're looking to a positive recommendation, yes, we'd be looking to direct staff to draft the ordinance to then come back, approve it, and then go to the next village board meeting.
Thank you. Sorry to consume it. On the staff presentation, do any of the commissioners have any questions on what Andres has disclosed and what we've all reviewed?
I have a couple questions. Are we aware of any precedent of something like this having been approved before? Have any other acacia units been modified in this way?
I am not aware of any garages being modified for turn into family space, or turn into a family room, or for that type of reasonable accommodation. The reasonable accommodations that I have come across in my research in the village have been, our handrail that we did a couple months ago. Prior to that, there was a ramp that was provided in Indian Ridge, for a gentleman who had a disability. And then prior to that, there have been 2 fences that were approved for locations where the household had a child that had the special needs that required a fence, essentially, for their own safety. And I will note that with these, just like a special use, any of these accommodations, once the condition is no longer there, once the person, either they move or get better, let's be happy about that one, then it goes away. A part of the requirement is the restoration of the property to its original form at the end of when no longer the condition is there.
Andres, can you explain to me, you had 2 questions, the reasonable accommodation pertained to impairment, and then something about undue burden?
So, yeah, so the
Explain that again, please.
I'll go over it into what I understand, I'm not an expert on this.
Sure.
So, the Justice Department's website basically had provided an opinion on how to judge these cases. Now, I will say this specifically on this one was talking about group homes, but it basically covers all of them. So, first, does the request impose an undue burden or expense on the local government? Basically, if we change this request, is it going to cost us a significant amount of more money to police it or enact it or enforce it than necessarily any other home in Acacia? That'd be the first one. The second one is, does the proposed use create a fundamental alteration in the zoning scheme? Which essentially means is does it change that current, does it change the property so far differently to then be no longer like an R3, which is more dense attached townhomes as most Acacia is. So those are the two things that are on that. However, as I said, there are each is taken individually, and the scope and the reasonability in one place might not be reasonability in another on that. And I said the scope and the magnitude can be something that is also a factor into it.
Any other questions before we invite the petitioner to visit with us? We have representation from the petitioner? Are you able to come to the stand? Wonderful. Oh, whoever you think will be speaking, I need you to swear both of you in to the extent you're both speaking. Bet you didn't expect this crowd for this petition,
Not really,
huh?
not for this.
Can you just double check to make sure the mic is on? It should have a green light at the top.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much.
Since you both may be speaking, I'd ask that you both raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are going to present tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Excellent. Wonderful. So, what are we, I think Andres explained to us what we're considering tonight. Is there anything beyond what Andres?
I would just say, could you also identify yourselves for the record?
Great
Just
idea.
so when I do the minutes later, it's a lot easier for me.
Cindy O'Keefe, Okeefe, on behalf of Debbie and George Dominiak.
I am George Dominiak, Dominiak.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything beyond what Andres shared that you guys would?
Well, first, in regards to him quoting the DOJ, it's not really the precedent for it, but with those 2 items that were stated, there is no burden on the village. The village doesn't have to do anything in regards to this property. There's no extra policing. It's completely internal. Plus, Mr. Dominiak, and he'll give testimony in regards to this, has never used the garage to park his cars in. He's never done so. And it is common knowledge that in the area, there's other units in the area that have been converted. Don't know how, don't know why, but this is the situation we're in now. This could go either way in regards to regular variance or reasonable accommodation. We want to hit it both ways because initially, in 100%, it is for the reasonable accommodation of Mr. Dominiak. He's been going through this for a very long time. He has been going through this for over 1.5 years now, or has it been 2 years? 2 years, trying to get this taken care of. And it's been a long haul. It hasn't been just, we submitted a permit. We actually filed a complaint in regards to this with the HOA. So this has been a long, long fight. And it's for something kind of simple and silly that initially he was told, you don't even need a permit. Then he was told, yes, you do need a permit. And then now this has spiraled into something it really shouldn't have in regards to an elderly couple living there for over 30 years, needing a space so they can get into their space comfortably due to, especially Mr. Dominiak's disability. First, it started over a window, and then into the space. So we worked with the HOA. We settled kindly out of court with regards to that. But here we are. So, any questions?
Mr. Dominiak, do you have a state, there we go. That's what I was going to ask you. Yep. Because the same thing with the previous one, I asked the same way, because I said the state plan, to remind the Plan Commission with the previous one as well, as part of my recommendation was the fact that the state of Illinois requires significant amounts of paperwork and proof to provide, to get a handicapped placard. That's not the proper term. I forget exactly what it is. My apologies. And so there is a significant piece of evidence as well for them. I also want to point out, this kind of not to that question. Yes, this is a much longer issue. It's been an issue for the last couple of years. In creating my staff report, my first draft had all the back information that we did have into it, but I did not feel that it was relevant and pertinent to all of it. So I want to acknowledge that you are absolutely right. And they are telling the truth in that matter, that it is a very long process from my understanding, starting in December of 2023, at least when the village was involved with it. So, but outside of that information, I didn't feel like it, I didn't want to put extra information in there that distracted from the reasonable accommodation. So I wanted to make that explanation to the board and anybody watching and listening. So.
What is the status of the homeowners association's position on this? Did I hear you say they've been opposed to it?
The opposition was in regards to part of the project, which was having a sliding glass door instead of a window. And they have now approved that. And any of the interior construction then was required to be approved by the village via a permit.
To elaborate a bit on that, Mr. Dominiak, to where there is currently a window for some of the units in Acacia, he replaced it with a sliding glass door.
Okay.
And after some contention and back and forth, the HOA has now approved that sliding glass door.
Okay.
Mr. Dominiak would like
Can
to
I
clarify that.
It's a garage, had no windows. We were requested to have sliding doors and was approved by the HOA. And then, of course, everything started to go negative. That's why council got involved. And now we're able, through the HOA, to have the sliding glass doors. So it's sliding glass doors, never a window. And that's about it.
Anything else to add? What I'd like to do now is open it up to the public, see if there's anybody that is here to speak on the subject. They may have questions, comments, others, and then what we'd like to do is have you guys come back to the extent there is anybody out there. Me or them? Oh, no. We're going to ask the public to come up, and then we're going to have them respond to any comments that the public has, at which time we'll do the same thing. But is there anybody from the public? Let's circumvent this. Is there anybody from the public that is here to speak on this petition? Excellent. Can you please come to the podium and introduce yourself? And as petitioners, don't go far because we're going to have you right back up. Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Diane Voiles. I live in Acacia, approximately a block away, and I'm also on the Acacia board. And I'm here at the meeting because I object to the variation just because we're a planned unit development. Keeping everything uniform is important to me. I think this would be a very dangerous precedent if this were to happen. I think it would open the gate for all kinds of possible questions and concerns. My other thought on the matter is specifically to item 4, where the homeowner has said his ability does not allow him to use the full use of his home. The home is a 2-level home. If the homeowner cannot get up the stairs to use the 2nd floor, I question the addition of another room, having the garage turned into a room when there's already a kitchen and a living room or a living space on the regular floor. I don't understand, and I don't even believe there's a full bath on the regular floor. I believe the only shower in that type of a unit, unless it's been remodeled, so I don't have that knowledge, would be on the 2nd floor anyway. So my thoughts on this is that item 4 is definitely not a necessity. And that was all I had to say.
Thank you.
Can we request a little more clarification of what the modification actually is? Because the mention of the sliding door got me confused. I guess I was misunderstanding because I thought the outward appearance was still going to be that there'd be a garage door. It's just that when it opened up, there would not be the depth of space required for a car?
Correct. So the sliding glass door was not what I put it in the memo for the reason that it is not needed as part of the variation.
Okay.
When the garage door would open, can still open, then the depth would not be there. The way the plans are is that there's a separate partition wall that would then be there as well. But the sliding glass door that is used for the access is not something, once Acacia approved it, is not something that our village code disallows. So so yes, there is a modification to the exterior of it, but once the Acacia HOA approved that modification of it, there's nothing in our code, which is what we were discussing, that disallows that sliding glass door on the side of it.
So it would be that would be on the side, and then from the front, it would still have a garage door?
Correct.
Okay. I was trying to figure that out.
Yep, yeah, I apologize. It's like I said, it's that weird. It's kind of that uniqueness of yes, it's changing something, but it's not actually within the scope of what the Plan Commission is considering.
I'm sorry, I was listening to your conversation before, and I do have another question. Depending on which way do you go, if this is an accommodation, I heard something goes with the unit and something goes with the homeowner. If this variation or accommodation goes with the homeowner, whose responsibility is it to return that garage into a garage? At what point during the sale of that house does that have to happen, and who enforces that? Would that be the Village of Indian Head Park? And how would you know when this needed to be returned to its initial garage situation?
So as a reasonable accommodation variation, it follow the petitioner. So when the petitioner is no longer at that residence, then that the entire home, the unit would then be required to be returned to its original state as a garage. If that is through sale, then at that point, as part of that sale, it would be on the petitioner to change, or whomever has inherited the property, to change it back. And that would be on them. And how would we know with that? That's a very good question. And the answer is generally we would know it because the fact when they change ownership of the property, which usually then goes with a water bill. When people change ownership in the village, especially in Acacia, that they change water bills, and we do then know, we'd see that the change of ownership is there.
So do you have a way to flag those water bills to say this house is a special occurrence and something has to happen?
We do now, actually, with our brand-new software that we are getting. It is now a unified software compared to our old one, and we can put flags on those types of things. So if, not for this case, but, if there's some violation or something that's going on or unpaid anything that's at an address, our new software now, doesn't matter what it is, it flags it so it comes up when the new changeover happens.
That's good, because we don't have any way to do that within the Acacia Board. And then, I guess lastly, I am unaware of other garages that have been turned into rooms, and I heard the attorney say, oh, yes, it's others, so I would respectfully request those addresses be furnished to the Acacia Board, because we are unaware of this happening.
I'll just say on the village's part, we don't lift up everybody's garages to see what's going on inside. So if someone provides us with the information, we do follow up on any complaints. Otherwise, like I said, we are not actively going around peeking in people's garages, windows, rose bushes, or anything like that.
Amy Eckert, I'm a resident of Acacia, and I'm also on the board. Andreas, I have a question. You mentioned something about parking, and I was a little confused. You gave all kinds of dimensions. So could you re-explain that to me?
As part of the village's zoning code, every single-family residential, so our R1s through R4s, are required to have one off-street and one enclosed parking space. Basically, you have to have enough space in a driveway and a garage to park a vehicle. And as part of the zoning code, we provided dimensions that were required for that, and they are 9 feet by 20 feet, and for an enclosed space by 7 feet high. So the reason this requires a variation is because the fact that if you eliminate that 9 by 20 feet, then at that point, it no longer meets the zoning codes because it no longer has an enclosed space that would accommodate a vehicle.
Okay. And for the off-street parking, by off-street parking, or was it off-site parking?
It's off-street parking. and
Okay,
the-
so a driveway counts for off-street
Yes.
parking.
Basically, yeah, for residential purposes,
Yes.
off-street parking is driveways or enclosed, which would be garages or some enclosed parking structure of some sort. We don't allow like carports, but assumingly it could be like a carport. But that's
Does it
what
make a difference how many cars are registered to a particular house?
it does not make a difference on it, especially nor does the Acacia PUD at the time when it was put in place was that an issue.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
You're very welcome.
Hello, my name is John Bidding. I do not live in Acacia, I live in Old Town. Didn't come here planning on speaking this tonight, but after hearing all of this, really feel it incumbent to do so. It seems to me like this is a gross overreach by both the HOA and the board. There is reasonable accommodations that need to be met per the American Disabilities Act. This gentleman is, I believe, asking politely. He's not changing the square footage of the home. He's really not changing the exterior of the home per the HOA. I think that is the major problem. He's also said that he's willing to bring the home back to its original after he's done using it. Given all of this, I think that the village and the HOA, even by denying this, is opening ourselves up to legal ramifications by not accepting something within this reasonable accommodations of the American Disabilities Act. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to clarify one point for that. Under the Fair Housing Act, yes, we do have to make hearings for reasonable accommodations. We have to make them as promptly as we can, but they do go through the normal process. So this is the normal process for any variation. So any sort of reasonable accommodation that would come through has to go through this process.
Good evening. Vonda Scher, Schure, 149 Cascade Drive next door. I never had a problem with this, but my biggest concern is, will you get some kind of a project of what he actually is going to do before it is done? Like a architect, I'm sure he's going to have an architect come in and do this. So you will have some kind of a project on what he's going to do. So it's not a bedroom, it's going to be a family room, no bathroom. That's what my biggest concern is. And I'm going to side with Diane, is I'm worried about everyone else doing the same thing. So that's my biggest concern. If he wants to spend his money and do this and not move, that's fine. But my biggest concern is everyone else is going to do the same thing, and then we're going to have all this other things going on. But we have to make sure all he's doing is a family room and no bathroom. Because I just had my basement done, and I will not have flooding in there for any reason.
One second, let me answer that. To answer part of that, this, Mr. Dominiak has provided us plans. We have, as part of the process, and in this very long process, we did look through them briefly. I basically had one of our consultants briefly thumb through it. He didn't provide a full review, but he did look through it to see if there was anything glaring. He did not see anything. If and when this is approved, those plans will go through our building consultant for a full in-depth review of the building plans. And so it'll make sure that it is up to specifications as if anything else. Because it is a shared unit, there is additional codes that go on, just like if you were doing work in your shared unit as well. So if this does get approved, this will be a safe structure according to building codes.
Sorry, last thing I'll say. I would just like to remind everyone again that this is for a disability, and this does not mean that every single person in Acacia is going to convert their garage based on a made-up disability. This is a real thing. That's it.
Anybody else from the public care to comment on the petition? Thanks, everybody who did speak. It's always good to get the participation and the engagement. All right, we have questions of the applicant, staff, or any of the folks that took time out of their evening to speak on the petition. Now's the time.
So I have just a clarifying question for the petitioner and the lawyer. That mic can also come out in case it's more comfortable, Mr. Dominiak. So I'm trying to keep it as private as possible. You've shown us that you have your handicap parking placard, which implies some mobility constraints compared to someone who is fully able. How is that correct? And how does this family room address that? Or am I incorrect and that might be for something different and this is not addressing that? So I'm just trying to get the correlation between the family room and I'm basically trying to find what I'm trying to define the correlation between the family room and allowing him to fully use the home. As much as you're comfortable with sharing, I should be.
Would you appreciate exactly what this room will be? It's a family room, but a family is everyone. This is for me. It's a garage. We all know it's a garage. It has 4 walls. If you take the one wall out, it's a garage. It's a car garage. I'm having a 4th wall put in, just as a privacy thing, because I don't want the garage door open left and right. The reason for this is, I do have disabilities. more than one. Actually, I got like 5 or 6. 63, I'll be around, okay? Unfortunately now, I can't go up the stairs quickly. I can go up the stairs, but it does take me time. I haven't been down in my basement in maybe 2 years. The reason is I have a problem with stairs. Acacia has stairs, and when these buildings were built, they weren't coated right. If you measure stairs, it should be 8 inches high. They're not. My ability to do stairs is there. I mean, I can still do everything except I fall, I'm done. I can't get up on my own. I do drive. I do have this thing. I only use this if it's a necessity, because I can still walk, talk, breathe, the whole thing. It's for convenient if needed, not all the time. The only time I actually use this is when I do go to the hospital for doctor's appointments. They have like 5 rows, so. And I wasn't asked to get they gave it to me. They said, you need this. My doctor, who is foreign, she's new to me, but of course the records go on and go on. To get into my home, it's 2 normal stairs. Going back to the patio doors, the reason for the patio doors is it's a step up. Not 2 stairs, and then another step. It's just a little step up. It's a wider door. It looks nice. It was approved, but we had problems with our HOA. And the first HOA approved it, which was my neighbor. He was the president. So that was approved. We continued on because my mom was going to maybe live with us or not. And that's when I came to the office and questioned it a few years ago. Just questioned it. And your staff wasn't here. It was the old staff. And stated, yeah, you can do anything. It's your house. As long as the garage is attached to the house, you're okay. The electric is continuing from the electric I have. I already had 3 finished walls. I just added another wall. And a ceiling. You can have a ceiling in a garage. Garage door goes up and down. Everything still works. I haven't put cars in the garage for years because of, I have a truck. The van doesn't fit. So basically it's for my convenience. It's not a bedroom. It's not a living space. It's an exercise bike, getting easy into the house, period. No showers or nothing, because I can still go up. But it takes me a while. So, thanks.
One other thing in regards to Mr. Dominiak and his disabilities. These are permanent, and he did say that we could disclose he does have minimally osteoarthritis, which was provided, and it's going to continue to get worse. And over the last 2 years, it has gotten worse, and the biggest concern is him falling. Being able to have that space that he can get to, that's not a bath, that was a concern. And this isn't a floodgates argument, because not everybody who has osteoarthritis, who can't go upstairs. This is a specific individual, as you have stated as well, Mr. Beltran. You said you haven't seen any of these come through. So this isn't going to open a floodgates. If it did, you guys would have that control and that power to maybe do some sort of different vetting in regards to it to make sure. I felt like some of the comments were questioning Mr. Dominiak's disability. It's no question, he has a disability. and that's simple. And he has a space that he needs so that he can use his home in the way that he should be able to enjoy his home. And this isn't going to be an undue burden upon the village, and this isn't going to cost the village anything in regards to it, other than our time and you guys being here, which I do like to say I appreciate everyone here who got notices that was here as well. And just for the record, it's been a pleasure dealing with the village attorney. I thought he was going to be here tonight, so, but it's a very nice village. So.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for your explanation on that, because that's kind of the, as I was explaining to it, is the key is that it's, the burden is not necessarily that he can't use anything. Basically, the burden for a reasonable accommodation is not that they cannot use their property at all. It is to the same extent that someone else cannot enjoy the property. It's not just use, it's also the enjoyment of it. And so with Mr. Domenic's explanation, in that he essentially has a harder time using the rest of his living space, that is what the correlation that I was looking for. So thank you very much on that.
Anything else for the petitioner or any of the folks that spoke on behalf of the petition?
No.
Excellent. Well, at this time, I'll entertain for $1. That's 2 questions. Yes.
Listening to all this helps explain what's going on. My question is there a different accommodation that would allow Mr. Dominiak to access his entire house, as opposed to changing the use of a garage to a family room? Is there some other way, some other accommodation that could meet his needs so he could enjoy his entire house? Question.
Has there been, I guess the question would be, was there anything else explored, or was this the option recommended by medical professionals?
This was the option, as well as a ramp was, it was also an option, as with the room that he was able to access. The duty of the village is not to come up with other reasonable accommodations, is this one will be, does this qualify as an accommodation, reasonable accommodation for the homeowner? Not to spearhead and come up with other ideas in regards to it. That's not the burden of the board or the village. It's to approve it. Does he have a disability? Will this burden the village? Will this burden other individuals? And from the testimony so far, it doesn't sound like it. We have one objection in regards to a floodgates issue and everybody doing it, which that's not the case. We have a homeowner with a disability. So, any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing? Once we close it, it's just us. Cat, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Minshaw. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed. Deliberate. Team, I think it's very important for us to recognize and distinguish between what we're hearing, what we're considering here. And I think it's important to emphasize the reasonable accommodation. The concern, albeit valid, about all of Acacia conversion from garages to living rooms is something that we would have to hear. But for a reasonable accommodation, I don't know that it would go very far with this commission. I'm only speaking for myself, but I think that as we're thinking about whether to accommodate this petition or not, we need to keep in mind how unique the circumstances are, given the health of the petitioner, and make sure that we're doing our job to make a recommendation to the board. And so we're clear, what we will be voting on is approval for staff to begin drafting an ordinance to document the conditions of this petition.
Yeah, you will direct staff to draft the ordinance to approve the reasonable accommodation that you will see at your next Plan Commission meeting, which is September 2nd, I believe.
I heard a question about a list of other garage conversions. Anthony, if somebody converted their garage, technically they should have come through the village for a permit, similar to the petitioner who is navigating that process right now. So can I ask that you go through the records of permits that have been applied for over the last 10, 15 years, whatever you have access to see if we have any garage conversions to family rooms?
I will definitely look into that and review all the permit documentations. I'm fairly certain that there haven't been any legally permitted conversions.
Legally permitted, right. And then one of the other things is, because this is something that would go with the petitioner and not the property, I understand and appreciate we have the ability to monitor transfer of title through water bills, but if I'm the buyer, I've already bought the house when I'm transferring the water. And I would hate for that gotcha moment to surprise me when I'm trying to transfer the water bill. So is there another mean to track this such that if title changes hands and the petitioner vacates the premise, the new owner is not surprised when they go to transfer their water and we say, how's your garage deconversion going?
I will have to double check. I believe we could also record it with the Cook County recorder, such as the Plan Commission did with the sheds and fences, special uses. I will have to double check on that though, since I've never personally done that for a variance or a special use.
So it'd come up on a title report.
Correct. My other comment would be, well, then your lawyer should have called us beforehand, because real estate lawyers should call us beforehand before you buy your property.
Yeah, but not everybody gets a real estate loan.
Yeah, I mean, I understand right now, especially that people move fast and they don't do as much due diligence as usual, but
Is a lien possible? The place
we
on the
don't-
property?
a lien would not be the proper mechanism, because a lien is for
Title.
money. But yeah, I will definitely double check to see if there's some sort of recording that can be done, and if that is the case, I'll get it back to you before the next meeting.
Well, this
So-
obviously has value. Even though it's not a lien, it still has value.
A lien is for what is
Version.
a lien is for what is owed to the village. It's a monetary thing. So, like I said, it could be a recording for it, and I'll double check with our legal team on that as well. And if there is a case for it, when we draft the ordinance, with the help of legal, we will put that stipulation in there that it be recorded with the Cook County of Deeds or whatever the mechanism is.
Any other questions for staff? Actually, there's no question for staff, it's just us. So, if we think we've heard enough, I'd entertain a motion to give staff permission to advance drafting an ordinance to the benefit of the petitioner for this conversion. I would ask for it to be a favorable motion, and then when we do a roll call vote, I would ask that you either support yes or decline no in the vote.
I'll motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll motion. Motion to approve this ordinance? Is that what you said?
I think what we're motioning is
Motion to.
given staff permission to draft an ordinance in
Ordinance.
support of the petition.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Motion that.
Second.
Second. Let it be known, motion by Mr. Bylina to give staff permission to draft an ordinance in support of the petitioner, seconded by Mr. Minshaw. I'd ask that we do a roll call vote, yes or no, yes in support, no if we're against it. Can I get you a roll call?
Commissioner Bellina,
Yay.
Commissioner Minshaw,
Yay.
Commissioner Hlatke, Commissioner Tantillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Gormley Barnes,
No.
and Chair Greg Skovich.
Yay.
With 4 to 1, the motion carries. Did I miscount how many people are here? Oh, I'm sorry, 5 to 1.
Is there a way to kind of now determine what the timeline is going to be? So everyone understands the expectation going forward. You mentioned you're going to go ahead with this next step. What's the realistic timeline before it gets to approval stage?
So the realistic timeline on this is that I will bring this back at the September 2nd meeting. If you make no changes, if it's all approved, then I will take it to the September board meeting, which would be whatever is 9 days at September 10th or 11th,
Yeah,
the board
sure.
meeting. At that point, they would approve the ordinance. The reason we are doing this now this way is because the board gets to see it multiple days ahead of time instead of a couple days ahead of time.
Sure.
That will be the second Thursday board meeting. At that point, once it's approved, then the petitioner's plans will be put through for building review, as it will then automatically pass zoning review. And then we'll go through the review process. We are currently in our permits. Our current permit process is a 7 business day turnaround, approximately. And so then, hypothetically speaking, the petitioner could be underway by mid-September.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience. Thanks for the thorough application. We'll see you next month, if he thinks you need to be here.
For the Plan Commission next month, not likely, due to just the way it is, but if you wish to appear at the board meetings, I'll keep you abreast of the dates and times for everything. All right?
I'd say share a draft of your ordinance with them,
Mhm.
to the extent they have any improvements, suggestions, then I would encourage you to come. But if the ordinance that he shares, draft ordinance that he shares with you is acceptable, then
I will do such.
thanks. You're free to go, unless you want to talk fences
Yeah.
or hear about the board report.
Or the building code updates, zoning code updates, anyone? Anyway, thank you.
All right. All right. Andres, let's talk new business. What do we got in front of us? Looks like residential fence regulations.
Correct. At the July 10th board meeting, the village board passed a resolution directing the Plan Commission to consider the appropriateness of current fence regulations, excuse me. In particular, the village board requested the Planning and Zoning Commission examine the matter whether the village ordinances regarding the installation of fences in residential districts should be amended, so whether they should be changed. I'm going to summarize, get public input on this, including a public hearing, but also up to any other public input we'd like to do. Review any previous input and recommendations from previous committees and on fences on sheds. And then basically create and provide a report and a recommendation on whether everything I just said before, let's be honest. And then also if there's any types of, what type of fences and where they should be permitted and how they should be constructed and maintained, so basically what they should look like. The part of the resolution directed us to provide a report on its findings and recommendations prior to the board's regular December meeting on December 11th. So basically, we'd have to do, it'd be, the timeline would be the December 2nd, 2025 Plan Commission meeting would be when the Plan Commission would finalize its findings and reports. Now, because this is a very big topic, as we can see from our numbers of people in the audience, it's going to be something we'll have to take in steps and very considered to get everything in there. So tentatively, as we're discussing, each of these meetings will have an objective to look over. So this current meeting, we're going to do the introduction, which is what I'm doing now. We're going to overview in the process, which is what I'm doing now. And then for the next part of this discussion, we are going to basically, I call it brainstorm, but as we were discussed at the last meeting, we're going to look at the pros and cons of changing those. And we're going to take that in two steps. Basically, the commission is going to look at all the pros. They're going to tell us, we're going to talk about all the reasons why they should be changed. And then we're going to flip on, put our different hats on, and say why all the reasons they shouldn't be changed. Then from that discussion, the plan commissioners will also, and then public input, of course, the plan commissioners will then look at staff if there's any other questions they want, they don't have enough information for, or if they want staff to look at certain points of data to do additional research on. Our next meeting, we'll be following up on items from this one, but also we'll be looking at our public input strategy. Are we looking at just a public hearing? Are we looking at public surveying? How many public how many public meetings we're going to have? These types of outreach. So that I'll focus on that. Tentatively, October 7th, we would have a public hearing on the regulations for fences, and mostly just soliciting input for it, and any input on what the commission has already provided. November 4th, I've put a public hearing continuation in case we have a lot of input. And then we would also do the first draft of the recommendations to the village board. And then finally, December 2nd, this commission would finalize the reports to the board that would then be sent out for that December 11th meeting. I also have included what the deliverables will be here. I put the comprehensive background history on this. Unfortunately, I have not been able to do that because some of the information is missing. Some of it's in a format that's very hard to digitize and then analyze. I did put significant amount of information in there, though, if you wish to review them. As I said, in September, I'll provide any follow-up to these questions. I'm going to be also looking at creating a list of allowable locations, because as of PUDs, not all PUDs would allow them to have it. For instance, I don't think Wilshire Green's going to have fences in their backyards. And then we'll look at comparable village codes, so what our neighboring towns are doing, what they look like, and then I'll also, if we might create a public survey if possible. And then, like I said, the October 7th will be public hearing, and then we're working on the drafts and all of that. So as I discussed somewhat briefly, the objective here for this commission meeting is to basically take an overview look of what the reasons for possibly changing fence regulations could be, what those reasons for changing those against changing those fence regulations would be, and see if that filters out any further information or questions that the commission's staff wishes to research for the next meeting. As I said, the reason why I'm taking this kind of very measured approach is because in previous attempts of looking at fence regulations, they seem to have not taken a holistic approach. It didn't seem to be very measured. It seemed very ad hoc and off from the hip, to be honest with you. And it seemed to what happened was the project got too big all at once, and it essentially got stepped away from, which is not a good process or a way to get public input on the topic. So that is what I have for the report on this, and if I have any questions or comments, I'm more than happy to answer.
So to confirm, we're not taking any action tonight.
No, this is more of it is a discussion on basically the pros and cons of changing the fence rules, and then any other type of information you wish staff to then find out and provide.
And at the conclusion of this 5-6 month effort, it's not inconceivable for us to arrive at some consensus that what is in black and white and exists today in the zoning code is acceptable.
Correct. You can accept, it could be acceptable, it could be unacceptable, it might be minor changes, it might need major changes. At the end of the day, in that last December meeting, whatever that report and whatever the recommendations or findings are, the goal is to have it done in a very well-considered, comprehensive manner so that everyone has input, that wants to provide input, has provided input, everything has been listened to, and that in the end, whatever the decision is, there's no question of how that decision was reached at the end.
And these dates assume we have quorum.
Assume we have quorum, assume we don't have something else that might push the dates forward or backwards.
Excellent. Thanks, Andres.
Looking at this schedule, it notes in September, next month, we would talk about the possibility or the value of doing a village-wide survey of some kind. What form it would take, all of that to be determined. Is there going to be another village-wide newsletter that goes out? We all just received one like last week or something. Is there going to be, within this time frame, another village-wide mailing or any kind of mechanism that we could use for a village-wide survey?
If we were to look to do something village-wide, we could do it digitally, and like do like note cards, kind of like we did we had postcards to send out, so then people would then be able to do it online as part of it. We could also just do a full mailing like we did community surveys in the past. Sorry, the previous community survey was done with a note card, and then people would come in, or they could come in and fill out a paper copy as well. We could do it like that. We could do a full mailing on it. We could do like a hybrid, kind of how we did with the Heritage Center surveys on that type of thing. So there's a lot of options that we can do. If we were, if the commission was looking at wanting to do a full survey for everybody in the village, we know how to do that, and we could discuss whether the cost of it and where to do that as well.
This assumes that we do a public hearing in October and maybe continue it to November. If we were trying to do some more broad outreach, and give everyone a chance to either go online and answer, look at some information and answer, or come to Village Hall and look at some information and answer some questions. That just seems a little too aggressive as a timeline. But we do have built in here that if we did the public hearing in November, it might just be a marathon, depending on how many people felt like they hadn't been able to share their inputs via the survey.
Yeah, the time frame, if into September we look to do a village-wide survey, either online, we'd look to probably keep it open from mid-September to mid-November, so past those kind of public hearing dates to get
Okay.
that and correlate that data on that way. Because you're absolutely correct, it's 8 o'clock on National Night Out, and we have a very packed room for Indian Head Park, but not everybody can show up at 7 o'clock on the first Tuesday of the month, and we would prefer to have as much input as possible on these so we can get a full community-wide comprehensive look at what is going on.
So once again, the survey, we have a tool available to us. We've done it before. We could enact that. Questions asked are designed by some subject matter expert, I would imagine. And then the tabulation and the results are all available to us in a timely fashion that we would have it for these public hearings, correct? Did I get that right?
We'd have the preliminary data for both October and November. Kind of as Gavin was sharing the survey results, you know, you might see, okay, well, on October, we have 100, and then,
Okay.
and, you know, you might be after that. But yes, the surveys will be crafted by people who have extensive knowledge on how to craft surveys,
Yeah.
which is both Gavin and I, as a matter of fact, so
Wait
just
for
to
you
point
to
that out.
identify yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I designed the one Algonquin still uses, back in the day.
Yeah.
And then Gavin went and did a bunch of it from Polco, and it went to the ICMA, the International City Managers Association, to share the results there, so we're
Great.
fairly good at what those.
So is it right to then start documenting the questions that we have at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you mean like right now in the meeting, or just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't
Or-
know, I'd defer to Greg at that one, Chairman Scovich.
Yeah, it looks like
Oh,
September,
sorry.
you're responding to August questions, so.
I didn't know if you wanted to solicit public input before that, after that.
Oh, that's right.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
We have public comments as the seventh item on the agenda. Can we have subject matter
as-
public engagement on the fourth item?
As the chair, you are able to ask for
you.
public comments
You have
on
power.
topics at your discretion.
Can I pick and choose? Just kidding.
I mean, yes, you technically can, but
I'm kidding.
it's probably not best government.
No, everybody, we've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you for your time. Thrilled to see as many people that are in the room. Let's open it up for public comment. What aren't we thinking about that we should be? I challenge you guys. You came out. Tell us what we need to be thinking about.
Hi, John Bidding again. I did come here to talk about this.
John, thanks for your contribution earlier. That was, it comes from all walks, and an objective, non-emotional voice is always welcome.
I figured I was here, so I should just say something. Yeah, fences. This one touches home a little bit for me. I do have animals. I live in Old Town. I have a pretty large lot. We have a large ranch. And I've got 2 large dogs. I keep them on a leash, extended leashes in my backyard. My major concern is at night, so for my property, we adopted 63rd Street. The village gave it to us in lieu of charging us a lot of money in taxes more to take it. So the previous owner took it. We have this portion of 63rd Street. It's kind of highly traveled. We get kids walking up and down it. I get fresh beer bottles in there all the time. I get kids, young adults passing through my property from Indian Wood to Blackhawk. I don't love this, I got my dogs in the backyard, they're on a leash. I don't know who's coming through, when they're coming through. If my dog were to bite someone, it's a huge liability for me. It's a huge risk to my dog because there's a whole bunch of other stuff, they're not inside my house. They get bit on my property, walking through, trespassing. They have no way to protect the property. Furthermore, beyond that, my property is tiered. When you walk through my property, you don't have as much light. You could walk off a 3 or 4 foot ledge that is going to take you to the next tier. You could easily injure yourself. These just very black and white things keep me up at night. I hear kids walking through here in the middle of the night while I'm asleep. That's not something that I want for my home. I think outside the bounds of what I'm looking at for my own concern, cars fly in our neighborhood. They run that hill at Blackhawk, got to be going 40, 45 miles an hour. You're not stopping if you see a kid. We got huge bushes in our front yard. I've almost been hit. I know other neighbors who have been hit who haven't reported it. Don Hoke, who moved out of here, about almost a year ago, he got hit on his tractor in front of his house, mowing his lawn. Never reported it. it's one thing for an adult, we can look both ways. You cannot see a kid, and to not be able to just have that security, I think is just really short-sighted, and I think it's a major safety issue. Well, that's my 2 cents for tonight. Thank you.
63rd,
63rd
is it township, or is it village, or is it county? Do you know?
I think it's village, so 63rd doesn't. So if you're at Plainfield and Keokuk,
Yeah.
and then it's Indianwood, and then there was an old street, it was 63rd Street, that was decommissioned or what have you, and I think at one point that might have connected Old Town to 40 Acres, maybe? Because it does go up that way, but it's completely grown over, it's all woods, and so when they decommissioned it, they gave, or I guess at some point, you guys could research this, they gave the option for the homeowner that backed up to 63rd to adopt it.
So what street are there motorists on that are creating the concern?
On the residential streets, like Pontiac,
Got it.
Blackhawk. It's just they take it. And it's not just residents, we have younger kids driving in here. We have Uber and Amazon, which is like
Yeah.
NASCAR, and then here comes 5:30 when people are trying to beat the Plainfield road traffic, and they're rifling through, so it's just all the things we notice. Thank you.
Thanks.
So to clarify a bit on that, what he's discussing is basically Hiawatha, which is now Hiawatha, was 63rd, and it was supposed to come all the way through basically to where almost Sacagawea Park was. When the village didn't have that happen, that kind of back parking lot here, you can see how the houses aren't built on it. Sorry, I'm just staring. Now everybody's staring at my computer. Basically, the houses split because what the what would have been 63rd right of way is no longer there. So I don't know who vacated it, but it was vacated and it became part of those property owners' property essentially. But yes, there is some uniqueness here too because on Hiawatha, because there actually is like a little bit of right of way that was supposed to come. It was very interesting. But that's what he's referring to over here on Hiawatha, on what 63rd is, or it's Hiawatha now. Does that make sense? Sorry, I trailed off there a little bit. But yeah, he's talking about Blackhawk in this area, I believe.
Excellent. You betcha.
Yes, my name is Frank Leone. We've lived in the village for over 40 years. Our house is much too big. In fact, we live a couple doors down from Greg. But the reason why we still live here with the kids all gone and all that is mainly because there's no fences and sheds. I like seeing the coyotes run through my yard in the morning. I like seeing the raccoons running through my yard at night. And, in all due deference to people that want these, I mean, they knew what the rules and regulations were before they moved in here, okay? And except for, I think, very special circumstances like what happened on Apache Drive for that particular family, I don't think there should be any exceptions for fences or sheds. I mean, they don't add value to the property. Again, I talked about the animal issues. They're expensive, and the village is probably going to have to hire another full-time person just to police this, believe me, because there's going to be so many problems with neighbors suing each other because of fences and everything else. So I'm one of the 30 people that I know of that is totally against fences and sheds, and I hope the board doesn't consider this as an ordinance. Thank you.
Sandy Hayes, 6634 Cochise Drive. I was young once. Moved into this neighborhood 53 years ago. The beauty of the open land, the undulating hills. I had a dog. I had a young child. No fences. We survived. No fences.
Lori Davis, 6482 Apache. When you talk about doing a survey of the entire village, I think east of Wolf Road would totally not be impacted. Am I correct, if you allowed fences? Because it's either a PUD, Ashbrook homes are a PUD, and they can make their own decision on whether or not to allow fences. And then you've got all the townhouses, you've got Wilshire, you've got Indian Wood. So why would you pull everybody, because they're never gonna see his fence that's way over there? And our area, we actually in the same neighborhood as Greg and Frank. We raised our children and our pets without a fence. But one of the other big things to consider is the size of the various properties on the west side of Wolf Road. I think Old Section, most of them are a half acre, if not more. We're 9,800 square feet, with an acre being 40,000. We're almost 10. There's on Mohawk Court, which is just kind of this way, close to us, there's a lot in there that's only 7,750 square feet. So when you start putting fences, it's kind of behind where Kennedy lives and in Mohawk Court, you're really chopping up already very, very small yards, and will really it'll have a huge impact. Certainly in our neighborhood. I'm sure in the old section, they won't feel it nearly as much. Thank you.
What about residents on the east side? She brings up a good point. Would their PUD dictate regardless of?
It depends. It depends, and that's one of the reasons for next we'll have an allowable map. But the Robert Bartlett homes are not a PUD. The Robert Bartlett Estates is not a PUD. But additionally, some of the places that are a PUD, do not restrict whether or not fences could go in. So 45 acres, which is a PUD, would not restrict where fences could go in off the top of my head from what I remember. Ashbrook homes, the homes, not the townhomes, could also possibly, I haven't looked at Ashbrook's very closely recently, but also might allow them in. Well, the HOA might not, but the way the zoning could be is it could. So this is one of those reasons why I said, where would they be allowed? Now, to answer the question is why pull the east side? The long and short of it is because they're tax-paying members of the Village of Indian Head Park, and so they have a right to put their public opinion in. I mean, I understand that they're not going to have, every issue is not going to be their opinion, but that is essentially why we do public hearings, why we do public input. We do not get to pick and choose who we listen to as staff. I should clarify. And as a board, we have to listen to everybody, and it's good governance to poll everyone on it and then make the decisions from there.
Is it valid to ask someone to indicate where they own property when they're answering the survey, just so that we could look for patterns, in the data, or that might inform us?
We do generally ask a location that's very general, like east of Wolf Road, north of Joliet, like we've done before.
Yeah.
We do not correlate that to answers, because there's only 1,800 housing units and 4,000 people in this town. We could probably very quickly figure out who's who, which is not what we want to do for getting truthful data on it. But we can ask it, and that's actually a good thing to ask where it is, because we want to make sure we don't get, if we get all the information from one side of the town or not, then we can see that our survey is not that. Now, maybe in the end, maybe the east side doesn't care, and so they don't get back to us. But we want to see to make sure that we are doing our best to pull a full swath of the village.
Yeah.
But just to clarify the point, I think about the neighborhood Ashbrook, that if the village code were changed to allow fences in the zoning designation that covers that neighborhood, the HOA would then also have to change their policies to allow fences to go into that neighborhood, just to make sure there wasn't any confusion. There's 2 layers of regulation on those homes. It's what the village allows, and it's what the HOA allows,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get into survey design now. We're going to hear.
You got the floor.
I forgot what I was going to, no, I don't.
You're here to talk about a garage conversion?
Yeah, Tom Davis, 6482 Apache. To kind of build on what my wife Lori said, is broadly speaking, I would be opposed to fences in most situations on the west side of Wolf Road, only because of the beauty of having open spaces is absolutely phenomenal. But I think if the committee is going to consider fences of all sorts, I would like to suggest that you do not give too much thought to solid fences where views are blocked. If you are going to end up with fences, a wrought iron type of fence where it's probably 6 inches apart and you can see right through them, it would also continue to contribute to the neighborliness of Indian Head Park, for which we are, I think, known throughout the area. Whereas if you have stockade type fences, as you see in parts of Western Springs and LaGrange and areas like that, I mean, it's a visual barrier and it's a social barrier to your neighbors. Now you can say, well, you have a gate and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, okay. But in terms of, as my wife said, we've been here for decades and decades, and even before some of the bushes grew up between our various properties, you could see probably down 5 or 6 different lots going down Apache all the way around the bend. It was literally like a park, which brings me to the notion that if we're going to continue to call this town Indian Head Park, we should really be careful about what we do with fences. Thanks.
Please.
You all know me. I was here for a petition for variance. I do agree, it is beautiful in Indian Head Park. That's why we love living here. But I would really much appreciate having a backyard fence for my dogs, not a full disclosed fence, iron fence where the wildlife can come through. The way our backyard is set up, we can't even see our neighbors. We love our neighbors. We've actually got approval from all of our neighbors. This is when we tried to get a fence, which we obviously do not fit. I'm 6344 Black Hawk Trail. Yeah, I'm on Black Hawk. What we wanted and would like is a backyard fence, but we would want the iron fence so wildlife could go through. It wouldn't take away from the beauty. We spoke with our neighbors about it. We wouldn't want to separate from them either. So ours is a half acre. So, but yeah, I would like the opportunity and the option, and I would be open to what design. They are not cheap, so I don't think it would be everybody putting up a fence. They're very expensive, so that's just my thing.
Hi, I'm John Corcoran, 6417 Apache. Just some practical things. How would this impact the tree ordinance? Would trees have preference over fences, or fences allow trees to be taken out? Conversely, would this be an opportunity to get rid of a lot of the junk trees that are in the village, the honeysuckle and the buckthorn? You know, maybe if we're going to go this way, maybe we make this a requirement that if you want a fence, you've got to clean up the junk. I really agree with this gentleman about opening a Pandora's box here. You know, Tony's one of my neighbors. He tolerates my rather eclectic landscaping at times. But, you know, yeah, I don't want to be having to complain about some neighbor's fence not looking good. You know, what are the maintenance standards going to be? Who's going to enforce that? Is there going to be some financial commitment that the homeowner who puts a fence in, you know, that puts up a bond or something that can be used to enforce maintenance? You know, and again, if we go there, I think some people have alluded to it too. I would very, very much encourage a mandatory setback from the property line. So, you know, you can't put a fence right up to your property line. You know, it would kind of create a roadway per se for wildlife that they could get through, get to the yards that don't have fences. And finally, I am especially sympathetic to those on Wolf Road and what's going to go on with the Wolf Road expansion. You know, they're going to lose a lot of privacy. They're going to be encroached on probably. Is there an opportunity that they can have fences, you know, on the roadside, but not separating their property? So they get some privacy from the busy streets, but we still maintain that openness. Yeah, I would encourage, you know, there's going to be a lot of things to think about. The one gentleman talked about traffic. I'm with them on that. There's probably better solutions to unruly traffic. You know, there's a lot of places with speed humps and speed ramps, and maybe we should be looking at those to solve that problem. So thanks.
Me again. John Bidding here. I just wanted to expand on a couple of things and just show my support for all the long-term residents here because, look, we moved here for the same reason. It's beautiful, it's unique, we love it. We love it with fences, we love it without fences, you know, so I think this, just for us, is more of just being able to have what makes you a little bit more secure in your home and keep some safety and liability for us personally. It's obviously not going to translate to everyone in the village. Just responding to a couple of things that everyone has said here. I'm a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker for over 20 years. There is more than enough data supporting that this will increase home values significantly. No one has the amount of lot size that we have almost anywhere near us, unless you go into Burr Ridge, and then we're in a totally different tax bracket when you're talking about acres. I have about 0.8 acres, so we have a large lot. It's maybe 32,000 square feet because we did adopt that 63rd Street. You know, one of the things that happened when we adopted that 63rd Street, we're cutting out thousands of buckthorn. I mean, the privacy is gone because the whole thing was buckthorn. So we're doing our part in that respect, so I just wanted to respond to, you know, if you do have a fence, maybe you have to take down the buckthorn. I do agree with that, just keeping the landscape of Indian Head Park as pristine and transparent as possible. So I guess what I would propose, you know, and for your thoughts are, you know, an iron fence that's, you know, black, something that does not stand out, you know, as a color, or, you know, no chain link fence. Keep them at 4 feet. If you know, residents want to do something beyond that, they can do some landscaping on either side of the fence. Certainly don't want to have it on any sort of lot line. And I think you should limit it, you know, to what you can do maybe behind your house. So it is not something that you're going to drive up and down the streets and seeing fence after fence, and something that is not consistent. And I think you can make those reasonable restrictions so that you can maintain the aesthetic that we're looking for.
Are you a residential broker?
Residential, commercial, yes.
Have you seen what you're describing in any other communities?
Say that again?
Have you seen what you're describing in any other communities?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't say per se directly in this neighborhood, but from here to the North Shore, you know, I can probably only pick out off the top of my head maybe 3 other communities that won't allow a fence. They're certainly nature-driven. There's parts of Northfield that will not allow you to put in a fence because you're in the Skokie Lagoon area and they want to see the wildlife go in, but also because they're in a flood zone. And they don't want to have flooding properties and debris get stuck into someone's property, you know, and create whatever they're thinking. But I will say, you know, if you just look at the development right across the street on Plainfield, Timber Trails, you know, they put fences in. These houses are on top of each other. They're $1.2 million to $1.6 million I have 32,000 square feet and I've got a 2,800 square foot house. I can't get 700 grand for it. You know, I mean, like, the delta is $500,000. It doesn't make sense. So I'm just saying, there's a huge difference when you allow people to put in a fence. It will also cost me 50 grand to put in a fence if I wanted to fence in my 32,000 square feet. So this is, you know, it's restrictive for people to do. This is not something that everyone is going to stand up and say, I want the fence. And I think if the village puts certain restrictions on it, you know, to limit the size of these fences, keep them in the backyard, I think could certainly help the value of the homes. Thank you.
Thanks, John. What's that?
And a public comment email.
Okay.
So I did receive a public comment through email from Dale Holmquist, and I apologize if I butchered that. And the comment is as such. Over the years, I've sold many IHP homes. The beauty of the grounds outweighed a buyer's desire for a physical fence. The unobstructed landscape is what makes IHP special. Invisible fences have always been an option. No fences allowed, with few exceptions, have not affected recent IHP home sales or prices, if you followed sale prices lately. A variety of fences, one installed here or one there, would look unattractive, in my opinion. In addition, it's a broker's responsibility to understand ordinances in areas where they list and sell homes and to inform their clients of the same. And that is the complete comment.
All right, guys, we're supposed to undertake a brainstorming session. And according to Andres, we're separated into three distinct parts: reasons for changing fence or regulations, reasons for against changing fence regulations, and further information questions the commission wishes staff to research for the September meeting. Well, I think we heard a number of compelling reasons why we should and should not make changes to the regulations. I heard safety, I heard containment of pets, both in favor of changing the ordinance. And then I heard, against it, preserving the Indian nature of the original founding fathers, I guess, if you want to say it. And taking away from the character of what Indian Head Park is and was originally intended to be. So, also through the conversation, heard a lot of interesting ideas on some compromising. A screen for anybody that's backing up to a major thoroughfare. That's interesting. Black picket style as a potential compromise, or nothing. So, what didn't I reference that you guys heard?
I think the shapes, the unique sizes and shapes of the lots, that seems to be a concern too, and because it is park-like, and especially west of Wolf Road, so some of the lots may, by adding a fence, it would make them, just make the spaces a little bit more awkward. I thought the point about the, oh, sorry. Did anything wrong? I thought the point about the tree ordinance, or, you know, how it's going to affect the overall tree planting, I thought that was a very interesting point.
Yeah, what other collateral impacts are we not thinking of? That's a great example of, what else? You know, if you know, we were to say, hey, we're allowing fences everywhere, you know, everybody, I've got a utility easement behind my house. Well, shoot, how do we address that? At what point, you know, do you prohibit the fence from encroaching into the front yard? So what are the collateral things that, you know, if we just start pulling on this thread, on this sweater, what else aren't we thinking about that is otherwise solved right now in its current form?
I mean, I appreciate the point John made first about, you know, the foot traffic through his yard. And on Hiawatha, I have a lot of the kids trying to get back in through, you know, to and from school or the parks or whatever, coming through to get back to Blackhawk and et cetera. So if I put a big fence in, because I have a big dog, they would be able to do that. So there needs to be some accommodation planning for how do we get these kids back and forth out of the deeper neighborhoods without putting them on Wolf Road. You know, there's no designated path. Not yet. So maybe that's going to be solved, but yeah, it does go on, and it is a safety concern, I think, and a privacy concern for us. Kids just flying through on their bikes all day and night.
That you know of.
That I know of. And hopefully neither your kids or my kids were ever responsible for any of the nearby. I know
The study that was done a combination of 45 acres in Old Town, looking at some of the stormwater management issues. I wonder what the implications of fences would be for, you know, some of the swales and drainage facilities that, there was a study, you know, that was sort of looking at potential solutions there. The point that was made about the mature trees and, you know, if someone were to technically come in and say, I want to build this on my lot line, what would the impacts to the established landscaping be? The other question would be what would it potentially impact in the kind of the prevailing drainage patterns that some of which are engineered and some of which are not. You know, maybe causing some issues between neighbors if there are alterations. All just sort of like you said, collateral downstream, no pun intended, impacts, right, of allowing certain things to be done could just kind of create additional issues that we should think through to their logical conclusion before we come up with a solution.
You also have the issue of utilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fairly wide down.
Yeah.
At least it runs across the back of our property and then down through the back of all of the lots that face Apache.
Yeah. And so who has to offset the fence from their property line so that the easement is accessible? You know, those kind of things are all kind of come into play then when you're trying to understand where you might put one.
I can see the utilities raising an issue that if we can't get, meaning the utilities can't get to the power box or, you know, whatever it is, then you got a headache.
Just to reiterate, so I can find it on the transcript later, you were speaking about, the comment was about the utility easements and both putting them, you know, not being able to put them in utility easements, but also having the utilities then provide access to them as well. It's just because you weren't speaking into the mic, so it won't pick up. No, you're fine. It's just to help me for later when I do it, and so ChatGPT does not get confused.
I also did appreciate the counterpoint, though, that if we were to put some parameters in place and explore allowing only certain types of fences, that the expense of that could actually dissuade a lot of people from actually pursuing something if they don't really feel passionate about it, or so, you know, I think that means that, yes, we could allow them, but not everybody is going to go out and immediately, if we say, yes, you can, go and pursue getting a fence. So, yeah, I think that was an interesting counterpoint, though.
I'll add something in here to kind of throw a twist on this. Mostly we're looking at residential, but one of the things that the code generally allows, but not in the specific instances, residential that abuts public spaces. For instance, we have a fence that currently separates the Heritage Center site from residential. We do not have a fence that separates Sacagawea Park from residential, but they're essentially the same thing for all intents and purposes. At the same time, you know, could there be a fence here? Well, on that side of us, because it's fenced everywhere else, separating the village hall, which, you know, is in operations 24 hours a day due to the fact that we have a police department, from residential. Would that be something that, I mean, if I were to make the argument for it, my argument would be the fact that, you know, you have these higher uses in residential areas. They're not, you know, industrial or business, but they are higher uses and higher access to the public. And would it be good, and it would be good to create both a visual distinction between what is public property and what's private property, but also, you know, for a safety concern, you don't want a bunch of ruffians at Sacagawea Park late at night drinking to then wander into someone's yard. Or, you know, conversely, if a plan commission meeting gets too wild at 9 o'clock at night, we end up in Nakona, and they would not appreciate that. So that is turn the mic. Oh, it's cold. I'm sorry. I'll turn it. It dropped. But yeah, anyway, so that is something that is also would be a positive here. Would be to maybe not full residential, but an extending from where we currently allow separating from commercial areas from residential areas, separating public spaces. And please keep in mind, with our rezoning coming up soon, the recommendation is to rezone any public area from what this is currently named R1. It will be into governmental area, which would mean that it would be a non-commercial. So.
Andres? Yes. What's the trigger for some of the older fences if we create standards? Do they get grandfathered in, or would they all just be required to meet new standards, or?
If the fence is currently a special use and does not meet the standards of the new fence ordinances, then it would still contain their special use. It'd still continue on because it's a special use for that reason. If it was a special use and it met the fence standards, it would go away, essentially, for lack of a better word. Now, would it go away, and if we change the fence standards back, it wouldn't be in effect anymore? I have absolutely no idea, to be honest with you. I would think that it would go back into effect, but I would have to ask legal about that. Yeah.
We run the potential of having kind of some wonky older fence meets newer fence situations, so nothing.
Right, so if we're in Bartlett Estates and they have a special use for a split rail fence, and their neighbor decides to put in a, you know, black aluminum wrought iron looking flat top fence next door, yeah, it'll be visually discordant. But maybe they'll look at that and go, you know what I would like to have? A wrought iron, a fence that looks wrought iron versus a split rail, which really doesn't do a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
Are there
Fun thing you should ask that. Up until 2008, every pool fence had to be a special use. After that, they changed the way the fence ordinance was. So basically, if you have a pool and it's required, whatever the pool standards are, you don't have to get a special use for that.
For the same type of fencing for all the pools, because the ones in my neighborhood, they all look the same, so I didn't know if you had requirements.
There are, yeah. It's basically the requirements in there that are, I think they're 4 feet, or I could look it up here in a minute. But yeah, they're all wrought iron. They look, that's why they're all black, flat top. Look all the same. They meet all the building codes, so kids can't put their heads through them and or jump them and fall in the pool.
That's pretty standardized in the village.
It's kind of a standard. It's kind of a standard around the Chicagoland area, from my experience.
Standard special use? Is that-
No, it's the fencing. The fencing around a pool, or kind of the standard. I don't want to say in vogue fence right now, but they are metal of black wrought iron appearance. Picket, thank you. That are flat top because deer don't always clear fences, and so that's kind of what they are. So that does not mean it's required. You could have, you could have a fence that must be wood. You could have a fence that must be stone if you really wished it to be. So
So the village created, some kind of, not you, but some other, whoever started that, opened it up. They created some sort of, this kind of meets other neighborhoods.
they most likely just picked it up from what other people were doing, and during that time frame, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to require a special use for a pool when both things were required, and you want pool fences so kids don't fall in pools and drown. So it was kind of one of those things where, especially looking at the minutes and I'm getting towards them now, there was still pushback about allowing pool fences. So I'll
Interesting.
provide you that information later.
So, Andres, next month, we're going to continue the discussion, and it looks like we're going to entertain the potential, if we were to advance discussions on the potential of approval, where we might allow fencing. And then we're going to discuss the potential of public safety. And then to confirm October, again, barring availability and not having anything on the agenda that might preclude us from being able to talk about this, we'll have our first public hearing. So the survey for next month, do we know are we going to discuss next month what that survey looks like? Are we supposed to give you direction today on what we want to include in that survey?
Yeah, because I have written down here probably 25 or more issues that were brought up. Those need to be categorized in some form of segmentation by area of the village, and then the list just goes on. I mean, a lot of brainstorming ideas here, but, just on the topic of uniformity, there's probably 7 or 8 or 9, 10 issues that have to be brought up and discussed, and how that goes into the survey and the design. What are our expectations for this survey that, by design alone would be available for us to review? And how do we get our input to you?
So what I would say for what would be helpful right now, the reason I said public input strategy was because I was uncertain if you wish to do a survey. If the commission feels that doing a survey is the best option along with public hearings, I can start working on crafting something that might be able to, do it and provide draft copies of it so that the commission can then provide feedback at the meeting, and then we can get it out shortly thereafter.
You might be getting a little too granular for this survey with, you confirm, I think we need
It's
to.
lack of information, though, so we're going to be making decisions.
I think the
Yeah.
biggest question is, are you in support of amending the code to allow for fences?
Well, that's what we talked about at the last meeting, why are we here? I mean, if it's a hierarchical decision here, fences yes, fences no, and we move on. If it's fences yes, and we want to explore it, that's something entirely different.
And then there's a yes, but.
Mm-hmm.
Has the village considered litigation expenses too? So I'll tell you, this ordinance has changed, there's gonna be litigation on the other side. There's a lot of people in the village that have deep pockets that are against this, and if the village decides to go along with this ordinance, there's gonna be big litigation at both sides.
I think it's very important to have a survey and response from the residents of Indian Head Park, a good response. And you know, to have
Can we step up to the mic, please, just to make my life, we are being recorded, I should say, we aren't being broadcast as far as I'm aware right now, but it will be on the it will be on the YouTube, so that public comments are out there, so that's why I'm kind of insistent about the mic.
totally sorry. John Bidding again.
There's no punch card,
You guys know me,
benefit.
right?
You know, if you're thinking you're getting a free soda or something.
I just want you to recognize me when I come in next time. You'll be like, that's the guy.
Norm.
So just a couple of things. The neighborhood and everything around us is changing. Wolf Road, Plainfield Road. It's definitely something that should be thought about. There's a lot of new residents here. There's a lot of old residents here. I think we owe it to everyone to hear what everyone has to say. And then just on top of that, there is a much better response rate if you have text notifications than just email. So I'd just like to throw that out there. Text notifications for a survey versus just an email or a post in the newsletter. So I would just make that recommendation. If we could do
I would also say, John Corcoran, again, my experience with our surveys is they tend to be overly broad, and they don't allow kind of that pinpoint.
Exactly,
You know, I think it should, fences, yes, but it's got to be X, Y, Z. So I would encourage you to get that level of detail if we can.
Jim Gazis, Wolf Road resident, Indian Head Park trustee. We've kind of tasked this commission with this issue. For those of us that are on Wolf Road, we felt like the last administration was in 19 meetings that we knew nothing about, and I was the one or two people that were in these board meetings, and I would send emails to the board, specifically ask specific members of the board questions about what was going on with Wolf Road. Why? We have also two large animals. We're a bull mastiff family, and our young kids have now are young adults and out of the house. Mailboxes, trees, oak trees, evergreen trees, intoxicated residents that park to wave at the dog and the police know on a first name basis. We've kind of seen a little bit of everything. And again, in the cover of darkness, Wolf Road, this Wolf Road multi-use path, sidewalk, etc. Even with me being on Wolf Road with all these issues and asking board members and village administrators constantly, nothing's going on, nothing's going on. Unbeknownst to the residents, a lot was going on. So a lot of this is about transparency. I am on Wolf Road. I can respect the issues. We looked in Indian Head Park 15 years ago. We had a large dog. We didn't come to Indian Head Park as much as we loved it because of the fence rule. Fast forward, we've been in the community 13 years, the electric fence on Wolf Road. Knowingly, no fence rule, on Wolf Road, anything can happen. So buyer beware for sure. I do feel for these younger families that do back up to Wolf Road. Luckily, all that beautiful buckthorn that John Corcoran seems to, have the case against does provide some insulation. We don't really know what's going to happen. So, but what we do want this commission to do is kind of flush out all these issues. It has to happen not in the cover of darkness, not in some back room alley deal, not behind closed doors where all of a sudden it's a board meeting and you're reading about it in the Village Voice after it's happened. We want the debate. We want, this is great. We get more people in this meeting than we get in, our board meetings combined. So you're tasked with kind of fielding all this information. I agree with John. The survey, you know, depending on how it's done, selective participation, et cetera. Again, we're going to have a couple of these, we're going to have these meetings. We're going to have a couple public comment periods. We're going to have some public hearings on the board level, on the commission level, et cetera. And hopefully then you'll have the information you need to make a recommendation, and then you will recommend it to the board. The board can take the recommendation. The board cannot take the recommendation. Then it will be up to the board to make that decision whether they're going to write a new ordinance, pass it, not pass it, have that debate. So you're kind of the gatekeepers of bringing in all the input and all the knowledge and fostering that debate in the public forum, not on some commission or with a few board members that are leaning one way. There are safety issues. There are enjoyment of use issues. There are financial issues. A lot of these homes, you know, they're million plus, et cetera. There are other issues, and yes, there are going to be potential litigation issues. That's why we have counsel. That's why we have all those things. So, appreciate your time. I know you guys have been kind of bored the last 6 months or a year. This is your time to shine, so enjoy it.
This is what we signed up for. You had indicated that one of the things we would talk about is what information we feel like we still need to be able to proceed. And I feel like there are some things that we as a commission would like to understand better, but I think that is also information that would need to be somehow communicated with the community before we were asking them for feedback. Because like it is too simple to say, are you in support of fences or do you not want fences? There's a lot more nuance to it, in terms of certain situations, the people that face Wolf Road, the people that back up to Wolf Road, the people that face Plainfield, the people that back up to Plainfield, all these different situations that people face where there might be some kind of, middle of the road solution. But to ask people just a blanket question without being able to explain, these are the properties that it would impact if we, were to suggest doing this. There's this many properties that back up to those roads, or there's this many properties that have driveways on those roads. Or there's this many properties that are adjacent to a commercial, parcel or a public parcel that might be impacted if we were to allow a certain type of fence. I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around all the questions I have about where are the easements, where are these roads that have jurisdiction that the village doesn't really control what happens on those roads. Is there a special consideration for people that are adjacent to roads that the village doesn't really control at the end of the day? Those kind of things. But to be able to visually see some of those patterns before we pose the question is pretty important, I think.
First, or like presentation of the information first, and then
Making it available, yeah, somehow making it available.
all of what we know, and then
And that there's this kind of a whole continuum of things that we could consider. So how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? Because people will have an opinion about it, but it either directly impacts them or it doesn't. And they need to understand the implications
Right,
before
and I
they.
mean, you could just fundamentally say no fences, but if when the reality comes, it may not actually even impact you. I mean, I think it would be good for, in the spirit of transparency, for people to be able to understand that.
Yeah.
Knowing that, okay, if fences are allowed, it's not going to cut off every single viewpoint. It's not going to, people are not going to start immediately putting up fences here, there, and everywhere. Make it feel a little bit more accessible and acceptable.
So in the interest of time and eventually my sanity when I have to answer all these questions for you, would it be, does the commission feel like that they should kind of formulate their thoughts on these and send me the question? Because these are things I can do I know a lot of the kind of public education you were talking about, Diane. One of the things we were kicking around is creating a landing page on the website, which basically has all this information. Has the information that I've placed up there. Has the information, that I've gathered from all the the back. I have a bunch of stuff I still have to clean up and do, and all that information there, and helping educating, and then putting these graphics up there. Putting these meetings up there, these types of ideas. So I guess my question is, would the commissioners like to kind of gather their thoughts tonight? It is 9:06, and send me those questions so we can look at them, and then I can look at answering those. Just looking at my deliverable, which would be answering the questions from all, from this meeting, but also looking at those allowable locations that, what are in a PUD that would allow them, if the HOA in said PUD would allow it, hypothetically be allowed, and then, possible public survey questions, but also, possible other graphics and education. Would the commission feel like that's a good idea?
Excellent idea.
Okay.
So between now and the next meeting, we'll pepper Andres with questions, and then I think you'll come prepared next meeting to respond to those questions, and then from those questions, I'm sure we'll have more questions, but I think one of the other things would be for us to discuss next meeting what that survey might look like.
We might want to
Specific
set a
questions.
tighter deadline, right, of getting you our thoughts about what information, what questions we have that we wish we had the answer to right here now. Let you know, like, within the next week or
Yeah,
something. so
I'd
that
say
you
by next
can-
Tuesday, mostly because of the fact that I'm on vacation from Wednesday and through Monday, so
Lucky
I'm not
you.
going to be here. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not going to be here for the next week, and I'll be in Door County, and so I will not be answering any text messages or emails or anything. So
So when is our input due?
your input is due on the 12th, 7 days from now. And get that back to me then, so that way I have a brand-new intern who's done some community development outreach and engagement. And it sounds like a great plan for an MPA intern to help me with.
Well, didn't know if, an intern or Safe Build or somebody who can kind of even create some of these diagrams, we're not talking about
Jill,
high-level graphics.
yeah,
but
Jill in our
just-
front office is a graphic artist, and she continually begs us to do graphic artwork instead of, if you're like, hey, you guys, your graphics you look like you're a government. So I will probably also have her, once I can figure out what's what, I'll have her help us with those graphics as well.
And we need to send them individually. We need to send our lists individually to you. You then will compile them. and
Correct. And that,
5 of us ask the same question.
yeah,
Are we allowed to share it with each other individually?
So what you'll do is you'll send them all to me by next week, and don't email more than one other person, so we don't have any OMA violations. And then by next week, when I get it in, we'll compile them all into a coherent one. Don't worry about, asking the same question as somebody else. We'll just, collapse everything down. And then I'll send the list to the entire commission so that they can see what all the questions that are asked. And then at that point, I'll start working on it, and I'll be working feverishly on it to try and get you that information as quickly as possible.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Anything else from the public? If not, we'd encourage you guys to continue. Yes?
Can you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
Sylvia Mano at 6100 Timber Ridge Court. And I was thinking, listening to everybody, why not start with the obvious, the homes that back up to Wolf Road or any major road? The side of my house is Plainfield Road. It's for sale. I can't sell it. Every time a buyer comes, they love the home, and they ask, can we put a fence? No, we can't. And there goes my buyer every time. So it's been for sale for a couple of months, and I could have sold it 10 times over if I had a fence. So I think it's important to at least start with the obvious, the ones that butt up to a busy road. That would make a difference.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Come back, we'll be back here next month, same time, same bat channel.
No one's gonna stick around for zoning code reviews or building reports or nothing, all right.
I'll catch it on
About
YouTube.
to get interesting.
How you doing?
Great. Fine if you buzz through old business. All right, let's move on to old business. Andres, talk to us briefly about zoning code.
Could they be here during this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the zoning code updates are in there. Please give them a review when you need to sleep tonight. No, I'm kidding. Basically, if you look at them, it is continuing the idea of we are making things simpler, we are making things easier, we are collapsing a lot of things down into their broader districts, and more kind of a generalized activities that go in said districts, compared to right now where we have a bunch of districts we don't use and very specific uses like said haberdashery. So please give those a review. It's also very well explained in there. It's not in super technical language. So if you have any questions, we have a meeting with them every other Wednesday. So if you have any questions, send them to me. Be like, I don't understand this. And they'll be more than happy to answer those questions for us.
Excellent. Any items of discussion from the Plan Commission that we didn't already cover?
So just to clarify, there's the CR, the CG, the institutional, the light industrial. Those are the use there are non-residential categories, and then there are some residential categories that they're going to take the map of the village and sort of propose how to
For the resident.
map to those categories that are more logical.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
So
Okay.
basically our B3s and all our Bs are going to be made more intelligently. For the Rs, they're going to basically keep them the same, except they might flip-flop R3A and R3B because R3A is more dense than R3B, and that's just not the way it's usually logically done. The more you go up, it tends to be more density. They said they don't have to do that, but it just would, if you're going to clean everything up to make sense, make it all make sense. They're PUDs too, so we have to work on that, but
I mean, one of the fundamental issues was that, like, for example, Sequoia and Hiawatha are R1.
mhm.
What will happen if Old Town and Hiawatha and Sequoia are still falling under the same zoning category? Because the longstanding issue was sort of that the way those districts were defined was too restricted, like it didn't take into account the variation.
Yeah,
and
we have, the residential R1 is very varied in property lots, but overall it's still single-family detached housing, which is, and once we start getting to the R2s, the R3s, they start becoming more and more attached, more and more dense. So I think that's why we are still currently in the R1s for most of that. That is something I can definitely ask if there should be more.
Like an R1A and an R.
Yeah, if we can add some more of that, but also I would wonder if the variation between all of those is too great. And then now you start kind of almost have to cherry pick. You know, half a Hiawatha and half a Sequoia meet, you know, are still on the old Chicago grid plan, whereas the other half are not. So, but I'll definitely ask our Chantel, who is the planner, about it. Yep.
But overall, it's to make it easier to navigate. It's to make it easier for someone to look in it
Right.
and figure out what applies to them or doesn't apply to them.
Correct, and like I
It's
said,
modernization. Okay.
Yep.
You got a board report for us?
So the board referred to us they wanted us to look at fences.
I was going to
In
say,
case
they
you're
referred something else to
In
us.
case you're wondering, they wanted us to look at fences. That's the only current board report that I have is that.
Thanks a lot.
I do not have a building report. I was hoping to have BSNA up and running to be able to do that. I currently do not at the moment, just because, well, we're integrating new software, and if you've ever integrated any new software ever before, you realize that things are not as clean as they need to be. But it's going great. As far, besides being slightly behind, it is going very well, so that's all I got in that one.
It's been a couple months since we've seen that. You said it's great, so.
I mean, I should, I meant the software is very good. No, I haven't put together the whole board report because it's a very manual process, or building reports, it's a very manual process. And I'm trying to make, because it doesn't map right, I have to then go back. It takes me like an hour and a half to do it, and it really shouldn't.
Is there a bunch of stuff going on that we should be concerned about, or?
No, we're generally in the very routine. Most of what for building, what we do in the village is replacements of windows, replacements of sidewalks, and emergency sewer repairs, because if you live in Acacia, your line is clay, and I'm sorry to tell you that I did 12 emergency sewers last year, and I think I'm at 5 or 6 right now this year, because they're clay. They get replaced with very nice PVC. It's a good thing. But otherwise, most of the time, then it's smaller type things, driveways, these type of sorts. Not really anything big going on.
What's going on with Driftwood /
Sorrento. The bar portion is currently not open, which is good because they did not renew their liquor license. So there is that. The other, so that's why that is currently closed. It is my understanding that that both the businesses are currently struggling a little bit. But I have not had an opportunity to hit a meeting with them at the moment. There are some other issues that we are dealing with as well, also in Indian Head Plaza, that will need to be taken care of.
Separate from those two?
Separate from those two, and I'll leave it at that for right now, because I'm being recorded. We're gonna edit that out, right, David? I'm kidding.
Okay, excellent. Any public comments? All right. Well, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, is there anything we need to talk about? I would like to thank everybody for the 2.5 hours that you guys committed to us tonight. 2 hours and 27 minutes for showing up 3 minutes late. I'm just kidding.
Chase a 4-year-old around the park.
Step back here.
2 minutes
But
late.
I think the board has tasked us with responding to some community queries, and we're going to arm them with as much as we can to resolve, to resolve the issue. We put it to bed, kind of put it to bed, or wake it up. So, thanks in advance for the time and the guidance, Jim. And with that, I'm willing to enter a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Bellina, second by Mr. Minshaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?